Studio, mics are up. Good morning and welcome once more inside of a smooth breakfast with Valentine and myself, Folu. It's time right now, it's 7:31 to jump into detailed newspaper analysis inside of Freshly Pressed. We're streaming live on YouTube, Lagos, so if you're joining us for the first time, make sure you also head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. Click the subscribe button because it means every time we go live, you will get a little alert and then you can tune in to watch us. But we've also got some fantastic analysts in the studio with us.
We have Cheta. You can find him on Twitter at Chickster. And Cheta, good morning.
I'm not happy.
Okay, life is tough. Let's move on.
Ayo, good morning. Welcome, Ayo.
Ayo
is Esho1 on Twitter, and then Tunde Okufi at Big Hoops.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, guys.
Good morning. Okay, I'm sure Cheta will, in the course of this morning, explain why he's not happy. But let's go into headline stories for this morning. Our first story, Tunde, I'm going to come to you for your analysis on it. And Lagos, do remember that you can share your analysis by tweeting at us. Just use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981. The federal government considers options to mitigate the impact of the late passage of the 2018 budget. We've taken the headline from ThisDay newspaper, and basically it's just addressing the fact that, yes, the budget has been passed late. Again, nothing new here, but saying that they have taken certain steps to try and mitigate the impact. Tunde, do you want to take us through the story?
Well, this is the Minister of Finance trying to put a more positive spin on what isn't exactly the most positive of situations. The budget is late. It's perennially late. It's late every time. And in fact, some of the things that have been used to defend or as part of the mitigants that she has put forward that we won't suffer for this. We won't suffer too much for this being late because the previous one was late as well.
Yes.
All right. So to say that there will be some hard challenges is a serious, understatement. The budget, the appropriation budget, was put before the National Assembly on the 16th of May, and it's taken them 6 months to pass. I think they've also, and the questions that we have to ask is why has it taken so long? But I think they've learned a bit more. That's the National Assembly from last year, where the argument clearly was all about constituency projects, and they not being able to put, the projects that they wanted, insert the funding for the projects they wanted within the budget. This year it's just been quiet. It's just been like, oh, we're just taking our time. But we know that it is the same issue, and the discussions this time haven't been on the pages of the national dailies.
Indeed, but let's not also forget that there had been issues with the various MDAs not coming in to defend their budgets, not coming in to give the breakdown of what was going on.
That was the next thing I was going to. So inefficiency generally all around has taken us to this place. This was an examination. It means we can only score 50%. And why are we satisfied with 50% or below 50% every year? It's that 11th hour mentality, and it just seeps through our culture. Part of the mitigants she's mentioned is that anyway, they didn't shut down. We never have a government shutdown, so let's forget that story.
It's not built into the constitution.
Yeah, they said we didn't close the system down as in normally they would have closed down the 13th of December, blah blah. So it's more like we have more of a rolling budget. They didn't stop executing projects that they're working on. Then she pivots into the Abacha loot as well, saying that the recovered loot will be used for
roads and hospitals.
Well, his loot, this one that the Swiss government is returning, one of the tranches of all the money we've gotten anyway, is that they said they will use them for special projects, and I'm like, which ones? There's nothing specific. Then further down, she mentions that it will be used for social safety nets. To me, that just sounds like a plan or a way of saying, the stolen money will be restolen somewhere, because it's going to go into things that we won't really give to. Yeah, social safety nets for the socially rich. So that's what it is. And the rest of the story is a pivot into TSA saying how they've discovered inefficiencies in the MDAs that TSA keeps on uncovering money. Then she goes into excise duties, a bunch of other things, pivoting away from it's like standard.
The core, yeah.
Standard. Question. They ask you one question, and you go into a bunch of other things.
Kansas City Shuffle, they call it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Tunde. Do share your thoughts with us, Lagos. The hashtag once more is freshly pressed 981, and you can send in messages to our WhatsApp number, which we've tweeted to you. Up next, we will be taking a look at an announcement. Past anti-graft bills now. Transparency International tells the National Assembly. Cheta, the Transparency International has advised the National Assembly to pass anti-graft bills as soon as possible. This to enhance transparency in government affairs. Is it more bills that we need? What's your take on this? More laws? Over to you.
It appears that the lady who came, her name is Delia Ferreira Rubio, and it appears that she's keenly unaware of the fact that at the very least 13 of our senators are facing one anti-graft or one graft allegation
Or the other.
So I'm not quite certain it's in their interest to pass bills that will. I mean, and when you take a list of the names, you have names such as Saraki, Ekoremazu, Dino, Mubushi, Kashamo, Yerima, David Mark, Stella Ozua, Danju Magoje, Abdullahi Adamu, who used to be governor in Nasarawa State. You have Abdulaziz Nyako. I mean, you have Joshua Darie Jonah.
It's a top flight. It's a top flight.
So I don't understand where she's coming from, to be honest. You see, I've come to realize that there's something called we hope will happen, and there's something called what we expect to happen, and there's another thing that is quite different, which is called the reality of what will happen. And how many? She was talking with Kayode Aladele, who is the head of the chairman of Committee on Financial Crimes. How many bills of that nature do they have sitting in front of them? How many bills have they considered? It's a fat zero. So when you have something like that, we have to be realistic about this thing. The way we can change this narrative is get your PVC.
There you go. Get your PVC. Thank you very much for that, Cheta. Tunde, coming back your way now. The NCC say we're guarding against consumer exploitation from ThisDay newspaper. They are re-emphasizing the Commission's desire to protect consumers against exploration by telco service providers. This is according to the Executive Vice Chairman of the NCC. And this was during the 38th edition of the Consumer Town Hall meeting, which in itself is designed by the NCC to show that the consumer is king in the marketplace. Tunde, do you feel like king in the marketplace?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay. I just said let me ask, but over to you. What's your take on the story?
I don't, but that said, I think as regards perhaps consumer protection, the telecoms industry, and probably generally the services, that would be unfair, that would be a stretch to say the services sector generally is not doing badly on consumer protection, but the telecoms industry in particular has done okay, right? Because people have options. You can vote with your, not your feet in this time, but you can change lines. There are a bunch of options. The only sad thing is that when you move around all of them, you find that they pretty much act.
Because I was going to say, in this consumer is king, I mean, the consumer doesn't feel very protected if a lot of them seem to be colluding in their actions. People who are getting charged that don't subscribe to services, and they all do the same things. Consumers are being told, "Oh, congratulations, your weekly data has just been renewed."
I was coming there, so it doesn't look like a general smackdown. I was coming there. The other thing is exploitation, and especially exploitation within older demographic and the less educated people. They get sent and bombarded and barraged with these SMSs that make it look like they're in for something useful, but they're not. Even I've had I was subscribed for years to some ridiculous love tips thing, and I'm like, I didn't subscribe to this thing. I tried to unsubscribe continuously.
They added a couple more things.
Every it's like literally without fail, every week or every couple of days, I just 10 naira get taken off. It's irritating, but I mean, it didn't make me drop the line. But 10 naira from millions of people.
That's a lot. It's outright theft. Let's be quite frank.
It is theft, and despite all my noise, it just one day years after finally stopped. But that's why this is important, because the theme for this year is information and education as a catalyst for consumer protection. Right now, if they had set up specific channels for these, like the one I described as having experience, perhaps I'd have been able to take it up and see it through. the only recourse that I had was to call the call center, and it didn't amount to anything. But if they're channeled, so that's why education is important. We're not where we should be, but things like this will hopefully bring us to that place.
All right, Ayo, you look like you wanted to chip in something there. Is there something on your mind with regards to this?
I think from the telecoms, I think there's like a department that goes out to make money.
Yes.
So, like for instance, you make a call and then suddenly after the call, you just see a message, and usually by default you just want to press something.
Okay, yes. Just to get it off.
Just to get it off. And I think there's some certain set of people that actually try to think about how to make more money for the company, and it's actually very painful because I know a lot of people, especially not very tech savvy people, who suffer this thing every day. I know someone in particular, a little bit generation, the baby boomers. And then the person told me that I don't load my phone anymore because the moment I load it, they take off money. So I just load and I make calls. So yes, it might be king, but they need to do better than just rhetorics.
Absolutely must do better. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate hearing from you on that. We are moving on to our next story and staying with you, Ayo. 100 oil workers, or no fewer than, were rescued as a fire razed a ConOil platform. Now, this happened in the southern Niger local government area of Bayelsa. There was an inferno which was confirmed by the authorities of the Joint Military Task Force in the Niger Delta, codenamed Operation Delta Safe, started around 5 a.m. Now, it blew up the oil platform and razed the residential area of oil workers. Very, very scary stuff. When you look at this, one can only imagine. What's your take on the story?
Well, first of all, thank God no life was lost. But 2017, September, there was a fire also into this, and then it was the Akasa youth that actually took out the fire. And because of the damage, they decided, of course, they have to continue business. So they built a mini one, and just about when they were about to turn it on, it blew off again. Now, the good thing about this is I think they now prepared for an eventual, perhaps some kind of fire will come up, and they flew in the firefighters, but they were still assisted by the community. Now, what I know normally with oil and gas is they are really keen on HSE. And usually, they always get themselves prepared for this kind of things. So I think probably that's one of the things that helped the fact that there was no life lost. But I think they need to do better than this. There's something definitely going on technically here. I mean, the first round there was a fire, and now they're installing it again, and there's a fire. They're probably just checking the wrong place.
Looked into.
And this actually has its own hazard on the environment. So it's not just about the money that is being lost, also the ecosystem.
Absolutely, and the continuously falling soot from the sky. Thank you very much for that, Ayo. We are moving on to our next set of stories.
Yes, next set of stories. This one is from ThisDay. Cheta, I'll come to you. This one. Federal government carries over 538 billion naira unspent 2017 capital votes to 2018 budget. From ThisDay. Now, we know we have just 1 week left for the 2017 budget to expire, really, and then the federal government has achieved, they said that it is a 73.5% implementation of the appropriation. Out of this, now 26.5% is remaining from the 2017 budget. What's your take on this story?
Sorry. Well, fair enough in what they have said. I mean, they can talk, but it's one thing to talk, it's another thing to prove. And for the record, I'm a cynic. Whether it is this government, whether it is I'm cynical. You have to prove to me that this thing. So, while I will acknowledge that there are some projects, because we're talking of capital budget here now, there are some projects going on here and there. Do these projects going on here and there justify the amounts quoted? And the answer for me is no, both subjectively and objectively. And I will give examples from my own experience. Budget 2017 was signed into law by the then acting president, Yemi Osinbajo, on June 12 last year. And as of December last year, the super minister, Tunde Fashola, said his ministry has received only 200 billion naira for capital projects. Now, according to this statement that this story is built out of, they said that they have now released 450.074 billion to the Ministry of Works, power and housing. I would like to see a breakdown, not just we have released, breakdown of how this extra, they've released 650, sorry. So is the extra 450 in notes? In 5 months, they did 200. Then suddenly they added another 450 plus in just in another 5 months. I would like to see how I think what was it used for, because I mean I get on the roads a lot and go around the country and I
haven't seen the money is implemented really.
So an example that is close to my heart is Second Niger Bridge. I talk about it a lot and I get into arguments with some government officials about it. In April, they told us that the first phase of the Second Niger Bridge was 44.6% done. My village is basically at the site. So, me, I was at the site a few weeks later.
Have you seen any work?
The security man turned me back and said, oh, that you can't even take pictures here because government doesn't want the pictures on the net. And I came on Twitter and I shouted about it. And I was told that I hate government and anti-government, this, and all of that.
What you saw, does it show any progress at all?
Which progress? I'm talking, so last Friday, Kerry, House Committee on Works said that no contract has been awarded and Julius Berger will be demobilized from June. June is how many days' time? Sure, June is next tomorrow.
This week.
So, see, all of this is one thing for you to come and talk paper and all of that. And you see, I'll tell you a story that's happened in 82. The Shagari government gave so much money for the building of Abuja at the time. Then Shagari went to visit the Abuja site. And he said, his question was, where are all the buildings? It is this kind of thing that is happening right now. You are releasing. I'm not arguing that they didn't release. But is the money getting to what it
who's really checking that it's being used judiciously? Thank you very much for that, Cheta. Keep sending in those messages. We have tweeted our WhatsApp number to you. Just also use the hashtag FreshlyPress981 to send us messages on our Twitter platform, just as Deezer234 has said. He said, I said it. It's common knowledge that the Abacha loot has been announced to be put into the various social welfare programs. Please try and correct people who are bent on sending out disinformation. Interesting. Thank you very much for that, Deezer.
Deezer, thanks. New Telegraph is next. BDCs reject CBN's mandatory forex bid. So a showdown appears to be looming, according to this report, between Bureau de Change operators in the country and the Central Bank of Nigeria over new foreign exchange measures unveiled by the Apex Bank over the weekend. Now, as part of this directive from CBN, they said part of the aim is to improve foreign exchange liquidity and ensure that eligible travelers are able to access foreign currency. First, they're asking the travelers to present a visa and tickets over the counter and compelling the BDCs to issue foreign currencies to them immediately they come on the request and present these documents. What's your take, Ayo?
Okay, of course, we all know that they're trying to be as liquid as possible. We know they're trying to at least maintain the exchange rate at where it is right now. What's going to be terrible politically will be for us to have another plunge like we had in the past 2015 especially. So they at least maintain status quo. Now, by doing this, it's going to get very liquid in the banking sector. Okay, that's good. But the BDCs now are crying. Number one, the exchange rate at which they're buying is higher than they're selling to the banks. And something that also strikes me here is they said 3 days a week. Now, Friday is part of the days. Even the spokesperson didn't mention this, but I know Friday is always very busy for the BDC people.
Right, for the
considering
weekend,
the fact, exactly. So that to them is actually unfair. And also they're saying that they wanted to be reduced to 2 times a week and 30,000 per market day. So it looks like a fake request to CBN. I think they'll probably look into it. They need to be very careful now. I know we have a cash swap that's going to happen with China, but we're actually not. It's not necessarily going to be helping our exchanges per se. So people are still going to go back to the black markets, you know, to this Bureau de Change people. So they need to make them happy and make sure that they make FX available
and more flexible,
and more,
really, in
yeah.
the future. Thank you very much, Ayo, for that one. Premium Times is next. We have sort of an exclusive coming in from this paper. Buhari terminates $195 million Israeli security contract that was promoted by Amaechi. So the contract that was signed off by the Federal Executive Council in December of 2017 would have seen a contractor named as HSLI net $195 million in exchange for undisclosed number of special mission aircrafts, special mission helicopters, and 12 fast intervention vessels. Now, this negotiation and the relationship between the company itself and Rotimi Amaechi has been existent since the time he was governor in 2012. Tunde, what's the implication of this? Because they said that they've noticed some discrepancies in the contract. They've noticed that the company itself does not have, there's no evidence of existence in Israel where it's supposed to be coming from.
This story is amazing. I encourage everyone to go and get it. I mean, what's the implication? I mean, I'm not sure if it's so much an implication or it's a reflection of how corrupt we can be. I mean, let's say allegedly, how corrupt we can be. The lack of process, the way things just get done it's ridiculous. So my first thoughts, because I remember when this contract was loaded and they said, oh, they've gotten someone, and people generally rejoiced the previous contracts being cancelled because they were being handled by other people that Tompolo, the rest of them, when those contracts got cancelled. So it's like replacing, or the attempt was replace one corrupt contract with another which is our practice. But my first thought was, okay, in this cancellation, how much had we lost? According to the story, clearly we lost at least $50 million because $50 million had been paid upfront to the guys, right? And now we're asking them, they say the president has acted the supply items equivalent to the $50 million that we've already given them. Come on now. That's just not the way to to run things. They say upon investigation, they find they wonder how the contractor obtained security clearance for the job without an end user certificate. I wonder what that means, but it clearly means that these guys were not certified, or they were not qualified to deliver this to deliver a contract or execute a contract of this nature. Investigations by Premium Times reveals that that HSLI is not a registered entity in Israel. And then discovered ties to Mistreli, another company that had ties to Amaechi. So my first thought is clearly HSLI is a shell company. Right? It's a shell company. And it's supposed to be, I mean, if it had ties with Mistreli, it's probably, let's then say, which is possible that, okay, you have an SME or an OEM that you get expertise from. But not too long ago, Mistreli was a company called something else, they rebranded, was a company that helped Amaechi build a farm for
and then transition. Thank you very much. And then transition into arms.
And then move to arms. Farming to arms. Wow.
It's a conglomerate now.
I mean, wow. In the space of how many years? Wow. And 140 million to build a farm. My goodness. This whole thing is just mind-boggling, to be honest. Amaechi says, in his, I don't see how he will get out of. This is when people say that there's corruption in this, present administration, or at least, and we argue it. This is a clear, attempt of at least circumventing due process. In speaking out about, the contract being cancelled, his take is, I won't say. He says that certain people are looking to benefit from its cancellation and it not going through. And he says, I won't say until it gets out of hand. That's the most nonsensical thing I've heard. It is already out of hand.
All right, let's read out just a couple of messages very quickly. Biggie from K2 up on WhatsApp says, when you jam pack a man with the job of 3 men, what do you expect, Cheta? He can't divide himself into 3. God help him, because housing, he's done well below expectations. Whereas up on Twitter, Tunde Energy is not very happy with you, Cheta. He says, why do we always think roads whenever capital projects are mentioned? Do you not know how much has been spent on power and housing? Now, wow, he says. But let's move on.
Raise your hand if you have more power in your house.
Let's move on.
Guardian is next. Senate panel seeks financial autonomy for African Parliament. So at a meeting they had it.
At the end of the day, he who pays the piper dictates diction. So, but a caveat, while I agree with the spirit, I don't trust the people asking for it. I mean, take the current thing that they've put in front of the president to sign as a budget, they've, despite all our complaints, they've actually nudged up their own the ego that they will take home to chop. I mean, so it tells you
Family is robotic in all facets. In fact, the birds don't even defecate. Come on. He goes on to say, Rotimi might be a confirmed thief. That's in your opinion. Please let's not name call. But wait, how do you query or fire one of your chief financiers? Our president has been scammed since, and we're inside a one chance bus, basically, he says. And Cheta, apparently your name is now Cheta, just let you know. He says, I now have more than 18 hours of daily power supply, and I stay in Magodo Phase 1 GRA.
I stay in Magodo Phase 2.
Let's carry on.
Don't have 18 hours.
He has told you. You asked, they responded.
Let's quickly mention this.
Tunde has not had for 48
This last
hours.
story, Cheta. I'll come to you this one from ThisDay. Sit at home. IPOB warns police commissioners in Southeast against interference. What's your take on this?
Okay. So Cheta would have loved to take this story, but you can always jump in at any time.
I'm not talking about it. We don't have this one.
We don't have time, guys. Come on.
Okay, so the only thing I want to say is January 15 is actually was actually meant to address this day for the fallen Biafrans and the Nigerian soldiers for the civil war. So what happens then to those people that don't want to participate in this sit at home? Are you going to force them or coerce them into joining? Those are the questions I'd love to ask, but we don't have some more time.
They're abusing on Twitter, like they abuse me anytime I say it.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right, thank you very much. On that note, we are done. Thank you to everyone who sent in messages. We do have to move on now. So coming up next at 8:15, we'll be switching lanes and talking sports inside the locker room. So do stay tuned. It's Smooth 98.1.
But Cheta, you know Tunde Okufi always...
No, I know now. That's why I just said he's never happy with me.
Oh, well, you know now.